Hi, I am Jennifer Fox with Music Educator Resources, and today is Music Teacher Tip number 35. So every once in a while, I will see questions in forums about how to teach students with selective mutism. I've had the pleasure of teaching a student with selective mutism for the last few years, and I thought I would share my personal experience. But before we get into that, I wanted to just put it out there that I am not a doctor, a therapist, a psychiatrist, and in no way am claiming I am an expert. I am just simply sharing what has worked well for me, and I will also be getting a little bit personal, sharing some experiences in my own life. So, first, what is selective mutism? This might be the first time that you're hearing this word, so you might not even know what it is. I want to make it very clear that selective mutism is not an act of defiance or bad behavior. It's nothing at all like that. Dr. Elisa Schipon-Blum, also known as Dr. E, describes it as a complex childhood anxiety disorder characterized by a child's inability to speak and communicate effectively in select social settings such as school. These children are able to speak and communicate in settings where they are comfortable, secure, and relaxed. So a parent might be a little confused as to hear their child isn't speaking at all during lessons or in a school setting or somewhere, but at home they have no problem. And this is normal for selective mutism. It's also important to note, like most disorders, it's not a one size fit all. Some may be completely mute and unable to speak, while others may be able to speak a few words or whisper. So, how do we communicate with a student who doesn't speak? The beauty of communication is there is multitudes of options that don't require us to use our vocal cords. I thought I would share some nonverbal communication tools that have worked well for me. So, first, you can ask yes or no questions, and the student can simply shake their head yes or no. Another great one is thumbs up and thumbs down. You can even add a thumbs in between if they're a little confused and not sure how to answer. That works really well. Visual aids are wonderful. You could create cards that have choices. So things that have pictures on them or symbols, words on cards. Those are all great. They can hold up a card depending on what you have available, if it's just a this or that type thing, or you can have them simply point to the card. You can have them point to their music or the piano keys or whatever instrument you're teaching on or from, for the answer if it's that kind of question. So pointing is great. This or that. I'm sure you've heard of the game this or that, but this also works well for asking a question that is kind of more of a multiple choice, but giving an A or B answer. So is it this or is it that? And they can either simply point or they can, another thing that works well is to just use numbers. Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or whatever? So finger numbers work great as well. You could use technology if you want them to type an answer on the notes in the iPad or something like that. They can do that. Different technology is wonderful for many different reasons and ways. And then last is games. I highly recommend playing games with your students with selective mutism. Even with games where they need to give an answer, you can implement any of the other communication tools that I just mentioned. So the biggest thing that has given my student her voice during lessons is when we play games. That is when she will open up more. I adapt games in a way that if she is unable to vocalize, that it's okay. She can still play and have fun. Sometimes she will start without using her voice, and by the end of the game, she will have vocalized. Be patient with your student. In instances where a student doesn't respond at all, even with the nonverbal communication tools that you are giving, don't push. Don't push them. Simply just move on. Do what you can, teach them the best you can, and move on. Pushing is not going to get you anywhere and will only create more tension and anxiety, which is what you want to avoid. Remember, this is a real condition that stems from anxiety, so you never want to pressure your students to talk. But at the same time, you can give opportunities to do so if they're able to. My student and I are nearing the end of our 4th year together, which is crazy to me when I looked that up. I'm like, oh my goodness. And she now will ask and answer questions softly or share little things with me without any prompting. I also found that when we have taken a significant break from lessons due to holidays, etc., that sometimes she will go back to her mutism for the first couple lessons until she's comfortable again, and that's okay. So I wanted to, say that's completely normal, especially when there's been an extended break, or maybe something's happened where she has anxiety that day or something. You just don't know what's going on. On a more personal note, there are things that I have experienced which makes me wonder if I had undiagnosed selective mutism as a child. I feel like I still do, even as an adult, in specific environments, and usually those environments are group environments. The biggest way I can describe my personal experiences is that I can have lots of things going on in my head that I want to share, but getting them released into my vocal cords would create a huge amount of anxiety to the point that it almost makes me feel like I'm paralyzed. Like my vocal cords are literally paralyzed. I could literally be screaming something in my head like, "Come on, Jennifer, get it out." But I can't get it out. Then nothing comes out, and it's so frustrating. So if what I wanted to say made it out, it was a huge deal. But sometimes it wasn't heard because I was too quiet, which can be frustrating also after so much effort in finally letting it out. And then if I was heard, I would be so glad it was out, but I'd continue to feel anxious. My heart would be beating a million miles an hour, and that would last probably up to 5-10 minutes before I could relax again. And then if I couldn't get it out at all, what I wanted to say, and the moment has passed, um, then I feel so frustrated at myself because I couldn't use my voice. The reason I wanted to share that with you is because what I personally experienced, even as an adult, is what I imagine what it might feel like with a child with selective mutism. Again, it's not an act of defiance. It's not a behavior issue. It stems from anxiety. And when we fully understand that, we can be the teacher that our student needs. For more information on selective mutism, I highly recommend the website selectivemutismcenter.org. It is chock full of helpful information. In addition, Dr. E, who I quoted earlier, has a podcast called Unspoken Words, a selective mutism podcast that you can listen to. If you go to the website selectivemutismcenter.org, the link to listen is right at the top. I hope this teacher tip was helpful and gave you more insight on what selective mutism is, some tools on how you can easily communicate non-verbally, and most importantly, that it is understood. Until next time, happy teaching.